don't know what time it is because it is the one and only In the Scope podcast with your boy, Joshua M. Hicks, senior writer for War Media. And like I always do, I bring my hitters with me. And this one is a hitter. He's the real deal. He is producer for ESPN Chicago, ESPN 1000, ESPN Radio, the full works, as well as the co-host of his podcast, According to Sources. Everybody give it up for my guy, Shaun Davis. Shaun, how you doing, my man?
Man, thanks for welcoming me in. Oh, it's about time, man. I was waiting for the invite to come talk to my boy Hicks.
Yeah,
no, man. Just want to give you your flowers on everything you've been doing, man. I've been watching you doing great things, and I know the future is bright.
No, I really appreciate that, man. For real, I had to, obviously make my way especially this year, to get more of my people on the show, man. Because all y'all doing great stuff, and y'all got some great intel. And as someone like you that's in these ranks, to hear those things from you is really a big deal, and I really appreciate that, for real.
Absolutely, it's all love.
For sure. Let's dive in though, man, because we got a lot of talk that's been taking place this week. But especially, let's start off with the Bulls, man, because obviously, starting off in this season, we know the new regime came in. You got a pretty much the same roster as last year with a couple of different veterans. And you just wanted to figure out, as a team, they wanted to figure out basically what this team is going to look like, what to keep, what to get rid of, so that way next year when you get this full cap space and the free agency pool is a little bit more in depth, you can really make some big moves in big ways, and even in draft wise as well. The 2020-21 draft is looking to be a lot more in depth and deeper than this past 2020 draft. The Bulls so far, to me, they kind of been surprising, and I say surprising because of the fact that they're actually excitable to watch. Yeah. Like, we can actually watch the game and be like, dang, this is actually very entertainment. They actually somewhat know basketball. What just so far in general, what has stood out to you to most regarding this Bulls team?
Well, you know what? I'll echo the sentiments that you just shared. I'm pleasantly surprised with what I've seen. Definitely a more entertaining product to watch on a daily basis or a game-by-game basis. I did predict, or I felt like they would get into the play-in to get into the playoffs and possibly get that 8th seed. I thought they had enough talent. One of the things that I was worried about, and I said this before the season, anytime you have a core injury the way that Wendell Carter did, I wonder whether or not you'll ever be healthy. And once again, we see he's going to miss significant time with the Chicago Bulls, and it's just sad because I believe for defensively, they missed him. He's going to call back there to protect the rim for their defense, especially the way he plays the pick and roll, and he's able to move his feet and guard smaller guards and also perimeter players. So that's a big loss. Gafford is a great defensive energy player, but I just don't see him really meshing with the starters. And I think that's one of the things the starters have had to get used to, him being in the starting lineup. You saw the switch that was made by Billy Donovan with the starting lineup, taking Gafford out. And then recently we've seen Pat Williams kind of taper off. I don't know if it's a rookie wall per se, but you're talking about a kid that wasn't a starter in college and didn't play significant minutes, and now he's playing significant minutes in the NBA. So that's a tall task to ask of a young man while he's learning the NBA game and trying to catch the speed. But I'm pleasantly surprised with him and his development, and I think he'll get his second win and continue to grow and become the player that we all think he's going to end up becoming. I think that was a sneaky good pick by AK and Mark Eversley. So, man, I echo your sentiments. I think this team is fun to watch, but just like we're watching in the political realm, when you come to the Chicago Bulls, anytime a new regime comes in, you have to spend the majority of your time cleaning up the mess of the previous regime. And I think that's what we're seeing. And unfortunately, in 2 years, I don't know if 80% of this roster will even be here, honestly.
And that's the key. That's why this year is such a pivotal year for the Bulls, because this is like the year they're supposed to figure out who is the core foundation that's going to take this group to the next level. Right. And honestly, we have no idea, because health has always been a plague for the Bulls. Yeah. Wendell Carter, unfortunately, is out again. And it's so bad that we're bringing back Felicio. I mean,
I don't know. Felicio, look, I don't know what he has, man. Pictures on somebody. I don't know. I have no clue why this young man was able to secure the contract he was able to secure. And you like the kid because he's really a try-hard kid, but he's just not good enough. He's just not good enough on this level. And he's really nice. He's a really nice guy, man. If you get a chance to talk to him in the tunnels when everything opens back up, he's a really nice kid, good interview, but I just don't think he's talented enough to stay on this level and produce at a consistent level the way you need someone off the bench, especially as a big in this league where you have to be more diverse as a big man now in today's NBA.
that's very true. And I think because of that, and the Bulls currently lacking at least an actual true center aside of Wendell Carter and
Yeah.
maybe and Gafford, you have to there's going to be a huge tall task now for more veteran leadership like Thaddeus Young, who has played very relatively well under Billy Donovan, and if you put him more at the 5 or 4 or 5-ish when you talk about Lauri Markkanen, it has some spurts, but it also has some setbacks because Markkanen defensively is just not that type of guy. And you have to wonder where are the Bulls going to move direction wise to fill that hole that Wendell Carter carries so well.
Yeah, it's funny because you check out the Bulls defensively. Like if you move Lauri to the 5, then of course your defense suffers, right? You're not able to protect the rim as much. And the same trend that they had last year under Jim Boylan has gotten a little bit better numbers wise, but the trend is the same. And that trend is defensively, they are better against teams that shoot the ball 10 seconds and under. Teams that play at a faster pace, the Bulls' defensive numbers are better. Teams that play at a slower pace, that take their time and make the Bulls defend 2-3 times through the plays, they usually get what they want because that Bulls defense breaks down eventually. Like they're good initially defensively, but when they're forced to have to defend for 15 to 20 seconds, you start to see those breakdowns, especially with the drive and kick and leaving open shooters at the 3-point line. So even though the numbers are better, they're not as bad as they were last year. That trend is the same under Billy Donovan. The veterans you talked about, they've been great, but you can't expect them. They are who they are. Like Thaddeus Young is who he is. He's a good role guy. You know, I said before the season, he's going to give you a good week, and then you'll be looking for him the next week. Like you're putting him on the back of a milk carton. And then Garrett Temple, you know, he's hitting big threes late in games, 2 or 3 games, consistently playing good defense, good veteran leadership for your youngsters. But when you need him to produce against the Lakers, you need to step up. Where is he at? When you need him to produce against the Boston Celtics and step up, when your youngsters are producing, when Pat Williams has tapered off a little bit, Kobe is in a slump. Where are these guys? They don't step up. Why? Because they're role players. And role players have the general up and downs during the season in the NBA. And right now, the only dog, to use that phrase, which is somebody that consistently is going to come out and give you buckets and go at you, I really only see one of those guys on this team. That's it. And that's Zach LaVine, and he has that mentality. I just don't see that mentality with everybody else. So, the job that Billy Donovan has done is commendable. I think we definitely see the difference in this team and the youngsters and the coaching that they're getting. But, going into the second half, Josh, I think what I want to see more than wins is attitude from some of these players. I want to see an attitude change in Lauri. I want to see an attitude change in Kobe. I want to see a little trash talk. I want to see them getting up in the faces of Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown. It's easy to talk trash to PJ Washington and Devontae Graham and the Charlotte Hornets. It's easy to talk trash to them. But when you go up against these really good teams, I don't need you bagging down. I need you to let them know we're coming. Yeah, you might be better than us right now, but we're coming and we're not scared of you. And I want to see that type of infectious attitude that Zach LaVine has, I want to see it grab a hold of some of the other players, especially the core players that we're trying to see whether or not they're going to be around the next 2 to 3 years.
And that's a very good point to have because at the end of the day, that I think that's what helped make OKC the Thunder, especially last year, be that much more successful than they originally planned
Yeah.
because they had a Chris Paul that brought that attitude and knew
Attitude.
how to galvanize that
Yeah.
team together so that way they were able to thrive the way that they did. Now you're asking Zach LaVine to take on that type of role where he's still pretty much learning that same thing, and you're pretty much handing Kobe White the keys to say, hey, run this thing, run the ship. And
And it's so unfair. Like, and people might not agree with this, but I take a step back and I've been looking at this recently, and I'm like, man, it's kind of unfair. We're asking Zach LaVine to do a lot, right? We ask him to be the dog, to go out there and put up 30. Then we say, wait, don't put up 30. We need you to distribute more. We need you to get other guys involved. Oh, wait. Now we need you to defend. We need you to be one of the best defenders on the court. And like we're asking all of this of Zach LaVine, and I take a step back and say, what are you asking the other guys to do? What's the responsibility and accountability for everybody else? What are the bullet points for every other player on this roster when they go out and play? Right? What are you expecting from Kobe? Are you expecting Kobe to defend the same way? Are you expecting Larry to step up and improve and defend the same way? And I just think a lot of coal has been dumped on Zach LaVine this season to say, if we lose, Zach LaVine didn't play good enough. If we win, oh, Zach's playing winning ball. It's like, wait a minute, man. One I know for sure, the last 3 seasons, bad coach and all, bad front office and all. Zach has gone out and played hard and has gone at the best. It doesn't matter who's wearing the other jersey or who's in the other jersey, superstar or not, he's trying to take their heads off. And if you don't like the outcome, that's fine. But you have to be in agreement with the attitude he has. He wants to win. And he needs other guys around him that have similar attitudes that want to win. It doesn't matter how you construct it or how you do it. Just get the job done. That's it. Just get the job done. And I think, man, hopefully that's what we see. We see the attitude change in the second half of the season.
yeah, that's a strong point. And the fact that you talk about Zach LaVine needs some help. I mean, there is one guy that's going through these ups and downs too, where he's at, and he's pretty much ready to jump ship too.
Yeah.
And Bradley Beal.
Bradley Beal, man, what's going on in Washington is I think we saw it coming. And they tried to save it with the acquisition of Russell Westbrook and hoping that a renewal with his one-time coach in OKC would kind of help the situation, rejuvenate his career, and make Bradley Beal feel like that the organization is really trying to put something around him, along with Rui Hachimura, who had a surprising rookie year, was kind of injured early in the year. But at this point, the way things are going, I don't know if they have the assets to go and make a deal for Bradley Beal. Trade deadline is coming up soon. Somebody's going to make an offer. Someone. And I wouldn't be shocked. I'm going to be honest, man. I wouldn't be shocked if you see the Lakers like sniffing around. I really wouldn't be shocked. The way that THT is playing, Contavious Caldwell Pope, maybe some draft picks. Yo, if they sniffed around and got Bradley Beal to add to LeBron and AD, along with Schroeder, yeah. I can see that type of deal being done. But if not, then he walks. He ends up walking and he goes to the team that he wants to go to. That's part of the business, man. Sometimes you have to endure and suffer some things that you don't like, but eventually you get your opportunity to go to a spot that you feel like is more beneficial for you.
Do you think the Bulls may actually consider an option of bringing Bradley Beal there? Just because, I mean, the ideal situation for him can be there when you're talking about him playing with another guy if they don't have to trade Zach LaVine. You have him pairing him with Zach LaVine in that backcourt. Right. He already got this approval of Billy Donovan because he coached him. He coached him in college. That the connection is there. He has high regard for Billy Donovan. And, Arturas Karnisovas and Mark Eversley have proven that even though they may not make no deals, they'll silently make calls. They will silently intrigue on ideas like this. Do you think they will actually maybe consider that type of idea come the trade deadline, especially if they already know some of these guys ain't gonna be here? So maybe we should get some type of compensation for those players.
You know what? I wish I could go sneak in the offices of AK and Mark Eversley for you and like read the confidential files, man, the G5 classifieds to know what they really want this team to look like in 2 years, right? And then I could be able to give you like the perfect answer for that. I would love to see Bradley Beal in a Bulls uniform. I think as most Bulls fans would, but it's all about their vision. And it's something we won't know until we actually start to see it, kind of manifest itself. And we say, that's what they're looking for, and that's what they want in this team. I think if we look at Patrick Williams, we see they want young, athletic, long, versatile players. Uh, is that Bradley Beal? Not really. If you bring Bradley Beal in, now is Zach being moved to the three? Are you asking them to play the three, or are you just saying we're going positionless basketball and just getting the best talent we can? And if you get those two players, then who are you getting in return to protect the rim? Or is it a three-way deal? Because I mean, if you're going to go out and get Bradley Beal, you're trying to make a quick jump. You're like trying to jump from that play-in to like 4 or 5 in the East to be competitive. That's why you make a deal like that. You don't make a deal like that to still be in the play-in and still develop. You go get Bradley Beal if you feel like you can make a jump to get to that 4 or 5 range in the East and be competitive. So I don't know if they're going to make that deal. Like I said, man, when you have a new regime, it's all about the cleanup. And I think the cleanup, based upon what we saw and experienced with Boylan and Hoiberg and Garpax, man, I think the cleanup is a much larger task than we ever could anticipate or think. And I think they're going through that process. And I think it was more than they really anticipated. I think they came into the situation looking at the rosters, expecting that these young players might be a little bit better than they performed under the previous regime. And I think they're starting to see, like, you know what, man, maybe it wasn't all Jim Boylan. Maybe these guys just don't have it. So, personally, I'm going to be honest. Personally, Jay, I wouldn't make the deal. That's just me. If I'm Mark Eversley and I'm AK, I would make the deal. I would have faith in my vision and just go ahead and go to work over the next 1 or 2 years to get to where I want this team to be at.
There was a recent article that came out, I want to say a week or two ago, from Joe Coley of the Chicago Sun-Times, basically saying, yeah, it's time to get rid of Zach LaVine. And I'm like, I don't think you understand what you traded, my man. Because Zach LaVine, like you talked about before, he's a stone cold killer. He's an assassin. And he's shown that every year he has improved in all facets of the numbers. I mean, he's averaging almost 30 right now with 5 assists, 5 rebounds. He's playing at a top tier level. Yeah. Considering the situation that he's in, and the fact that even last year, the way he performed, he was getting all-star bids, even though he didn't make the all-star team. He was getting the votes. He was in the runner-up selections of that the all-star team. So, do the Bulls really continue to obviously make adjustments to this team, but really make Zach LaVine the number one guy as the franchise player? Yeah. Or do you say, Zach LaVine, you are good, and right now you're on a pretty nice deal. Let's work out these next couple of years, see if you can bring in another top-tier talent or superstar to pair with you, so that way you won't have to be the number one, but you'll be a damn good 1A. Like, how do you think that should work with Zach LaVine?
Yeah. First, I'll say this. There's 2 ways you can go about this, right? I mean, if you're trying to move Zach LaVine because you feel like you can set yourself up for 2 of the most impactful drafts that will be in 21 and then in 2022. The talent and the depth in these next 2 drafts definitely give you an opportunity, if you're a team that's rebuilding, to make strides quickly in the NBA if you get the right talent. I mean, if you can go and get, like, let's just say the Bulls go and snatch Jalen Suggs in this draft. Like, yo, He's the perfect complement to Zach LaVine. Like, you're good for the next 5 to 7 years. Kobe can go to the bench, come off, and be your scorer off the bench. He's very comfortable. He doesn't worry about having to get others involved, and you start to build from there. Um, but if you trade Zach, he's not there, of course. If you stay where you are, you might be able to get up into the lottery and pair a guy like Jalen Suggs with Zach. So if you trade him, you take away that opportunity. Uh, if you trade him to get another pick, to get further up in the draft, to solidify that you might get a guy like that instead of taking your chances in the lottery, I can understand that. I can understand that. I don't know if they'll do that, but I can understand that. If you're just getting rid of Zach LaVine because you're falling for the low hanging fruit and you just want to grab the narrative that yeah he's averaging almost 35 and 5, but he doesn't play winning basketball, then I have to ask you, what is winning basketball? Like, because the last I checked, when I go to the local gym or I'm playing pickup basketball and the best dude is on the team and they get to game point and they're 4 to 6 points behind, that dude is taking every shot, trying to get back in the game. Because obviously, him trying to let everybody else and play team ball wasn't working. So when I look at the Lakers game, like Zach spent the beginning of the game trying to get everybody involved. They fall behind double digits, and then Zach goes like extremely aggressive and hard. I think Kobe got in foul trouble early in that game. So his sidekick is on the bench. Gafford is in the middle, so you're already hurt offensively in the starting lineup. And Zach gets very aggressive, and all of a sudden I see these tweets. There's Zach not playing winning basketball. It's like, what? He's doing what a star does. He tries to get his team back in the game. And if he goes down shooting. So I think this narrative that a lot of people are trying to grab that, Zach LaVine's, his numbers are empty calories and man, he doesn't play winning basketball. Man, that's all for clicks and just to get attention. Like, the man is a dog. He wants to win. And I think he'll do anything he has to do and he's well coached. It's nothing else you can ask from this young man. So if they don't want to keep him on the cheap and work something out and keep him in the core, because even if he's your second best player, that's a darn good team. And if you can get two players better than him and he's your third best player, now you're talking about a championship contender. Now you're talking about going deep into the summer and going like up until a week before the NBA draft, which is the NBA finals. That's the type of team you're talking about. So I'm with you. You can get him at 18 mil or maybe increase him a little bit to about 22, 23 a year, and you can keep him and add, by all means do it. Because what I see around him right now, you can't build with that.
One of the people that they actually been reported that they can add to this Bulls team is potentially Lonzo Ball. He's been in trade rumors.
I saw that.
Um,
I saw that.
is that a
I
move?
was confused by yeah. I I was confused. I'm confused by New Orleans and what they did. I'm just confused because there's no way you can continue to play Lonzo Ball with Eric Bledsoe. You
Mm-mm.
can't. And then you take Brandon Ingram, and Zion, the two players you have, and you stunt their game by putting a big clog like Steven Adams in the paint. Like, they need room to operate, and you clog up the paint with a guy that can't stretch the floor. It just made no sense. I don't understand what they were doing down there in New Orleans. And then Stan Van Gundy has always been one of my least favorite coaches. He just has. I'm sorry. So if they want to move Lonzo and they want to give him up for maybe a second round pick, because I'm not giving you a first round pick. You want a second round pick and Felicio and some other guys, all right, cool. You know, cool. Because what he will do, he will immediately improve your defense out front. Immediately. That's the impact, number one. Immediately they get better in the pick and roll in the front. Kobe can then look, Kobe, you can keep him on the floor, play 3 guard offense, let him and Zach attack from the wings, or you can bring Kobe off the bench and just let him go bunkers with the second unit. However you want to do it, that would be a nice move. That actually would be a nice, sneaky move. And he fits the profile, right? Long, lanky NBA player. He can play the point guard. He can play the wing a little bit. He's improved his three-point shooting. And he's definitely a much better player defensively than what they presently have at the point guard position.
So is it now safe to say that obviously Kobe White is continuing to develop into the, traditional style point guard that, the Bulls want him to be?
Yeah.
But we know that in the end of the day, that's not his true skill set.
No.
So is it time for to hang up that transition card and just be like, hey, look, Kobe, this traditional point guard role ain't working for you. So we may want to put you more on the bench as a backup to be a boost in that second unit that could pair with the Otto Porter, that could pair with a Garrett Temple, and really help with that offensive boost.
Yeah.
At the time.
The thing that upsets me the most is that what they're trying to get out of Kobe right now is what I said to let him do last year when everybody was like, no, that's why you start Sato. You need a veteran out there. No, we have low expectations. No one expects us to go to the playoffs. This is the season you throw the rookie out there at the point guard position and let him learn. And you start to see what he can do and what he can't do. And then his second year, you can properly allocate the ball game and the system around him or put him in position to be the best player that he can be. Now we're wasting time trying to view his game to see what he can do when we had all of last year to do that up until, of course, the pandemic hit. And, that's once again the ills of the previous regime, and now AK and Mark Eversley are having to deal with that. I would say before the season, if he averaged 5 assists a game, him being a point guard is, that's what else can you expect? He's not a pure point guard. He's not LaMelo Ball. Like, he's not walking on the court, and if he plays 30 minutes, he's averaging 8 to 9 assists. He's just not that kid. He doesn't have that feel. The feel he does have is to score. That's the feel he does have. He's a scorer. And you don't give up on a guy like that, but you have to put him in the best position to be the best player that he can be on your team. And I don't think, as the playmaker, I don't think that's the best for him.
Everybody listening right now, you're listening to the Shaun Davis. Shaun, transition to the actual NBA as a whole. You got the Eastern Conference, and right now Philadelphia is on top, and you got Boston right behind them. Obviously, you got your Milwaukee's, and but Brooklyn and Indiana are in a little bit of a dogfight, especially since at the recent James Harden trade that took place. With it as it's 3 or 4 teams. It was 3 or 4 teams. Either way it goes, they made that big trade to get the pieces that they got. And especially Brooklyn, from Brooklyn's perspective, they started off a little rocky because they finally got Kyrie back.
Right.
And trying to play that big 3 lineup together, they're still trying to figure things out. I believe that it's not time to hit the panic button because, you only played like only a few games together. You're still trying to figure out the system. And not to mention, to me personally, a component that's not being brought up is the fact that you do have a rookie head coach. Steve Nash is your rookie head coach, even though he has great experience from being an assistant coach with the Warriors, being an NBA player, and having his former coach in Mike D'Antoni, who coached James Harden. He has the connections there to make this thing work, but he's still a rookie head coach. He's still calling the shots. He doesn't know the full ins and outs of the head coach position yet. So with all that taking place, I think you just wait, you play it out, because eventually they're gonna figure it out. They know who's the real top guy to go to, no matter what, at any point of the game, and where they roll and go from there. They know where that lies. But people are still panicking, talking about get rid of Kyrie and they shouldn't, and all this other stuff. I'm like, relax, slow down. We just getting this thing started. Just wait until the playoffs come around and we'll see what type of damage that they do. What are your thoughts on those I'm hearing those rumors and those statements and how they can make this thing work?
Flat out. I think for the last, say 10 to 15 years, it's been safe to say that the most entertaining postseason basketball has always resided in the Western Conference. I think this is the year that the Eastern Conference steals that moniker. I don't know how long they steal it, but the Eastern Conference matchups are going to be absolutely amazing and exciting basketball. I think we have some great series coming up. You just mentioned the teams, Brooklyn, you mentioned the Sixers. You didn't even mention the two-time defending Eastern Conference regular season champs, the Milwaukee Bucks. You didn't even mention them. And it's like they're sitting there saying, hey, what about us? We're still pretty good over here. We still have Giannis. Pleasantly surprised. You see the respect, what it meant to be able to respect your head coach when you see how Joel Embiid is performing. He's putting up an MVP season, and them not willing to move Ben Simmons for James Harden. And then the Brooklyn, as you said before, matchups. They go up against the best defensive team in Cleveland when all three guys get back together, which probably wasn't the best matchup. And they're one of the top 5 rebounding teams. And rebounding is one of the things that Brooklyn is going to have to work on, especially when they take DeAndre Jordan out and then they put KD at the 5. They get real thin in that paint when it comes to rebounding. And Cleveland was able to go ahead and kill them on the boards 2 consecutive games and take advantage of that. So you're right. There's no need to push the panic button. It's just funny though. Kyrie took that when KD went to Golden State. I remember they would ask Clay, like, man, what do you think about, your shots diminishing? And Clay was like, man, you ain't taking my shots. Like, I'm getting my shots up. And Kyrie took the same attitude. James coming here doesn't change my game. I'm still going to be aggressive. I'm still going to take my shots. And you see in the first 3 games, he took more shots than anybody on that team. So for them, it's all about meshing, not just on the offensive end, but to get a game plan defensively and mesh on the defensive end. And I think in the playoffs, the ability to score is so prevalent, man, because when you're able to go up against the same team in a series and you see them night after night, you're able to lock in a little bit more defensively because you've seen the same sets over and over again. And that bodes well for the better team offensively the longer the series goes. So, yeah, it's no reason to push the panic button. But I'm watching before I joined you tonight. I'm watching the first half of Atlanta and Brooklyn, and man, I watched that for 7 games because the first 3 games they played each other, the first 2 up in Brooklyn and then down in Atlanta tonight, it's just madly entertaining basketball. Smooth, great shooting, great athletes, a little bit of defense is everything you could want in a series and in a matchup. So you're talking about, we haven't even mentioned Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, what that combination has been doing. And the Celtics have been winning and, holding the fort with Jason Tatum being out due to COVID-19 protocols. So when everything comes together, the Eastern Conference might go like 6-7 deep with like competitive teams that can actually give you a competitive series. So the only seed that might be open is that 8th seed for the play-in, and then the play-in is going to be competitive. If you have a series between Chicago and Charlotte and you start to add in maybe Orlando or teams like that, even and New York of what they're doing with Tibbs, it's going to be competitive. So I think the Eastern Conference is going to be a blast come springtime.
I also find it crazy and interesting how the Miami Heat last year was literally, they went to the NBA Finals.
We haven't mentioned
13th. They're saying 13th right now.
Yeah.
So
right.
It's like it's crazy. Like you mentioned, the competitive nature is there, but it's just so crazy how even right now, Cleveland is the number 7 team in the East.
Mm-hmm.
They have the worst offense in the league.
Worst, yep.
And yet they're sitting number 7. It's crazy how this season is going to play, and how you talked about the in-depthness within the Eastern Conference. Who are you ideally seeing as the top team to come out of that Eastern Conference going as we start to prepare for this transition period in the second half of the season? Like, who do you think you got coming out?
Yo, it's all about matchups. It's all about matchups, right? I see Atlanta's game works when they play Brooklyn because Brooklyn likes to play fast pace, and that works. That's when Trae Young is at his best. Like, if you're not gonna bog me down and you're just gonna let me play free, I can do that. So then Atlanta opens up and they just play comfortable against Brooklyn. That's a matchup. I don't think they can beat Brooklyn in a series, but they'll be competitive. You look at a matchup, the Boston Celtics. If Joel Embiid is being dominant on the inside like that, they went out and got a Tristan Thompson specifically for a guy like that in the playoffs, or for a Bam Adebayo, who definitely did damage against them in the bubble in the playoffs. It won't matter. Tristan Thompson won't matter because Joel Embiid is just that dominant. And if Joel, then you got Tyrese Maxey coming off the bench. You got Seth Curry shooting from the outside, and Ben Simmons just creating and playing great defense. And then you have Doc Rivers, who's doing a fantastic job with that team so far. But we have to see what he's building in the regular season. Does it translate into playoff basketball? Will Joel Embiid become happy with the perimeter? Or will he be that dominant guy that's scoring from 3 levels and getting teams in foul trouble and in the penalty, which helps out the rest of his team? We haven't even talked about Toronto. I mean, they've been struggling, but if they get on a roll, I mean, that's a team that still can get into a 6-7 seed and give you all the trouble they can in the first round because they have that veteran leadership and they have length, defensive ability, and they can shoot the 3. If they get hot from behind the 3-point arc, they can give you problems. Brooklyn, dude, Brooklyn is Brooklyn. I think everybody would say in a playoff series, they would take Brooklyn over anybody. Period. I don't care if it was Boston. I don't care if it's Philly. I don't care if it's Milwaukee. I think we all would take Brooklyn because I can't trust Milwaukee. I don't know about you. I just can't trust Milwaukee. I've seen everything I need to see from Giannis in the playoffs, and adding Drew Holiday is one thing, but I just don't think it's enough. So if I had to bet everything right now and make a pick right now today, I'm definitely going to roll with Brooklyn. But like I said, I'm just intrigued by all the different matchups we can see.
Yeah, that's true. You talking about why I didn't mention Milwaukee. I mean, they have no closer. They have no go-to guy. I can't trust Chris Middleton.
Right.
Drew Holiday, that's a tall task. He can do it, but that's a tall task. And you have no depth. You got rid of all your depth. You sold your farm to get Drew Holiday. So it's like, if Giannis, you don't develop your game, y'all gonna be just as stagnant as y'all are right now. That's just pretty much what it is with Milwaukee at this point. But I agree with you. It's Kevin Durant, James Harden, and Kyrie Irving, with Kevin Durant being your alpha. Come on now. Like that's just a gift.
You have to give them a nod. Yep, you have to give them a nod. Yep.
Exactly. And that being said, then let's transfer to the Western Conference, because the Western Conference hosts the true king of the NBA, and LeBron James. And obviously they're number 1 team in the West. And it's this Western Conference lineup to me is interesting too, because you talk about how the East has in depth. The West has always been that strong conference, and it seems like they just got even stronger.
Yeah.
Because there's just the top 2 teams trying to stay afloat, but the bottom teams from last year that made big moves to get up to that type of competitive level. The Phoenix Suns, with Chris Paul is looking real good right now. Right. Even though they're sitting number 7, they improved from last year by bringing in Chris Paul and Jay Crowder, tough guys to help build that wing and that depth with Devin Booker. And DeAndre Ayton has improved as well under playing with Chris Paul.
Absolutely.
So that Phoenix Suns team is looking pretty nasty. Golden State is staying afloat. They sit number 8 right now with Steph Curry, going back to MVP Steph Curry.
Well, man, look, this was the year, and I know a lot of people, first of all, give us kudos. According to sources, was the first podcast over 2 years ago that brought up the Dame versus Steph debate. It's in the archives. Everybody's talking about it now. We brought it up first 2 years ago, and we were adamant about it because, look, Steph Curry was just, I will never say he's lucky, but he split with LeBron that series, right? They went back-to-back finals, and the LeBron didn't have Kyrie and Kevin Love the first time around. Second time around, they win 73 games, and then they lose to LeBron in 7 games. Then here comes KD. Like, dude, no one's beating you. So you really, honestly, what have you proven? You went one, you split with LeBron, and KD was on your squad. So personally, you didn't prove anything. You just didn't. So now, honestly, when you look at it, now we want to see Steph. And what I've seen from Steph with this young team, the way he talks to James Wiseman, the way Draymond works with James Wiseman, and how this young big man, this is why I either wanted him on the Bulls or Lonzo. And I'm pleasantly surprised with Patrick Williams. But hey, those are the two guys I want. I mean, not Lonzo, but LaMelo. Those are the two guys I wanted. What he's done in the show that he's put on, the show he put on, leading that team back against the Lakers last week in the fourth quarter, down double digits as much as 22. Yo, you have to give him his flowers. Like, this is what I want to see. I wanted to see him in a position that we felt like Dame had previously been in, with not as much help, want to see you carry teams and go off, and that's what he's doing. The West, I'm disappointed in a few teams. I'm disappointed. Dallas is starting to come on. I know Luka was not in shape. Getting Porzingis back from his injury has helped a lot. So disappointed in New Orleans. Just I expected New Orleans to be so much better, so much further along, but I get it. Bad decisions with Steven Adams and Bledsoe and adding them to what already was there. Just a bad fit. Portland starting to come on. Sad to see CJ get hurt because him and Dame were putting in work together, and CJ has elevated his game now to where he's almost right there with Dame, and now they can really come at you. Nurkic gets hurt again, so I don't know what else they can do to keep him on the floor. But like you said, it's the Lakers, Clippers. Now you remove Houston, who was always in the mix with James Harden. He's no longer there. But they've been Silas has done a really nice job with the guys he has. I don't know if they hang around in that playoff fight. And DeAndre Ayton, Devin Booker, man. Oh, dude, this dude, and the impact of CP3 on both of those guys. The attitude, right? We talked about earlier, Josh. Attitude and what he brings. Devin Booker already had game. DeAndre Ayton had game. But now you see them playing with a different attitude, a different level of competitiveness. And you see how it's improved and gone ahead and affected everybody on the team, from the stars all the way down to the 13th guy in the rotation. And that's what you need. You need guys to grab hold to that attitude. And I'm waiting for that in the Bulls, man. But the Western Conference, I don't think it's going to be as good as the Eastern Conference, because even more in the Western Conference, just like last year, we got shocked. But we expect to see the Lakers and the Clippers, right? That's what we all expect. And Denver can throw a wrench in that. Jokic is playing some incredible basketball. I'm talking about a big guy flirting with a triple-double for the year. That's bananas. So, man, the Western Conference, I think it'll be as good as the Eastern Conference. I think really competitive, true competitors and contenders, they might go 3 to 4 deep, and that's about it. And I really think it's Dallas, Denver, Clippers, Lakers. That's what I'm looking at in the West to really stand out and go ahead and go for that crown in the Western Conference.
Yeah, I'm not really too worried about who's going to win it, because I think it's pretty simple. LeBron's going to win it again.
The King.
I think the Kings is going to win it again. It's kind of normal, kind of a thing now. But at the same time, it seems like this year's team, even with the Clippers improving, because Clippers improved too by getting, Luke Kennard, Serge Ibaka.
Yeah.
And I think having Ty Lue as the head coach now really helped smoothen out the cracks that was in the Doc Rivers era.
Yeah.
And they've become more responsive to that. And I think they've learned, at least starting off, that fallout was how unnecessary that fallout was last year and how they bounced back from that.
Yeah.
But
that's the key. You talked about that Serge Ibaka pickup. Even though they lost Trez, and a lot of people made a lot of buzz around Trez going to the Lakers and how that would help improve the Lakers. Well, the wings they have, Serge Ibaka is a much better fit on both ends of the court. A guy that can shoot the three, knock down the three, has NBA finals experience, playoff experience. And definitely defends the rim better than Trez. The much better fit next to those two guys.
Yeah, most definitely.
Yeah.
But it's crazy how even that Lakers team, that championship team from last year, we looked at them and was like, they pretty decent. Like they
Right.
pretty decent. They can for sure win that thing. We look at
Right.
it now like, dang, what happened? They just took steroids. Like
Squad.
they got a legit squad. And it's like,
Yeah.
and it's just crazy how even this year, last year was like, okay, there's no doubt. LeBron's supposed to get LeBron. You may have some question marks, but especially since Kobe's unfortunate death. It's been a year since Kobe died. So rest in peace, Kobe, Gigi, and the rest of the family members that was on that unfortunate, tragic plane crash. But since that incident, you just knew, okay, the Lakers are inspired now. They was gonna take over that thing. They was gonna win that title, which is what they did.
Yeah.
Now it's like, okay, we got more to go. Now we got the Kobe effect for real, because we got one under our belt. LeBron finally got that one under his belt to bring back that relevancy, to add that history, to bring back Laker Nation. And now it's like, you talking about another one, and he made sure that he got a squad this year. To roll up with that Lakers squad this year is ridiculous. Talk about the difference between this Lakers squad and the champion Lakers squad from last year.
We just talked about it even with the Clippers, man. A front office that did not rest on their laurels, had the championship and said, we have to get better. We have to put more pieces around LeBron. We have to put younger pieces around LeBron. The performance that Rajon Rondo gave them, it would have been very easy for them to say, okay, Rajon, we're going to reward you and bring you back. But they had the guts to say goodbye. They had the guts to go out and make a shrewd move to get a Dennis Schroeder, add him into the starting lineup. I don't know, another ball handler just like Rajon Rondo, not as much as playoff NBA Finals championship experience, but the aggressiveness, the creativity, and the youthfulness to go out and get 25 in a game, right? Because we saw what he did with OKC, to CP3 last year. He was phenomenal for OKC last year. And you add him, you add Trez to give you that energy off the bench and to allow guys like Kuzma and the other guys on the bench. Then you see the emergence of a guy like Taylor Horton Tucker, who's just been working hard at it. G League bubble, working with Phil Tandy, really taking, his craft at heart. And you start to see the manifestation, or you see the manifestation of all the hard work. Man, look, they're coasting right now. That's the scary thing, right? Like they're winning games, and AD is like pissed off because he's struggling. Like AD's like, man, I'm struggling, but it's cool that I can struggle and we can win games because I've never felt this. I've always had to play well for teams who win, and on a team where I can struggle and I don't have to force the issue.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I'm saying? I don't have to force the issue, and I can let the game come to me. And that's what a team like that affords not only AD, but it affords LeBron an opportunity to just flow into the game and just let the game come to them. They can sit back and say, okay, young fellas, go get it. Go get it. So you're right, man. Oh man, that's like another two. And you know what? I'm gonna be honest, man. Like you younger cats, man. So you guys love, you love the king. Look, I'm honest with mine, right? I'm an MJ dude. I don't,
Well,
I don't hide it.
Me. I'm like an exception. I mess with King James. That's my guy. I still think he's gonna finish as the number 2 guy, but
right.
Nobody's putting up what MJ did. Like that's my thing. Like
I'm just talking to the youngsters out there that love King James, and I get it. Like I get it. There's no hate from me. I get it. Dude is man. That dude is cold, man. That's a cold-blooded dude. But I don't care if he wins this year and next year. Nah. Just enjoy him being him. Like right now, you'll never see another guy like him.
Exactly.
And that's hard to say. Because when Mike left, we thought we would never see a guy like him. And Kobe came along. So if there's a kid like playing in 8th grade right now that's gonna walk into the NBA in like 4 or 5 years, that's gonna be like the next LeBron, that's gonna be scary.
Oh yeah.
That's gonna be scary.
Yeah, because LeBron's like
Just
a
think
whole
about
nother
that.
breed. LeBron's just a whole nother breed. Like,
Whole nother breed, man.
and that's why you know me, when we have these GOAT debates, I can't compare. That's completely different body types, completely different eras of basketball, completely different
It's
styles of basketball.
it's
Like,
razor thin, right? It's
very,
razor
very
thin
thin.
when you do great, right? It's razor thin. And for me, it's never about more championships, more MVPs. No, no, no. I have to see you on the big stage. And what differentiates you is like, I never saw Mike pull what LeBron pulled in the finals against the Mavericks. I never saw that. Like Mike has failed before. He lost to the Magic.
Hmm.
LeBron has failed before. But I judged them both when they got to the highest level in the NBA final stage. And I don't even take into consideration the teams that LeBron got there that were ill equipped to
Right,
win.
right.
Like that first Cleveland squad against San Antonio, that doesn't count. I'm talking about you have Dwayne Wade and Chris Bosh, and you're there, and you got a chance to go up 2-0
In
and
the
put
prime.
your foot on the necks of the Mavericks and Dirk Nowitzki. And then you go to Dallas and put up 11 points and choke in the fourth quarter. And it's like that right there. I never saw Mike do that. So for me, that's the small little difference when you're talking about those two guys with me. Like that's something that Mike would have never done. Never. And that's the difference to me. That's just the difference to me.
Yeah, that's true. That's all facts right there, man. Everybody listening right now, you're listening to ESPN producer Shaun Davis. Shaun, as we're talking about champions, there's one champion that is Chicago native.
Man, you
Decided
about
to
to make
come
me
home.
smile. You
She
about to make me
she chose
smile.
she chose to come home. Candace Parker. The news broke out today. We're recording this on a Wednesday, and pretty much the word came out before we even started
Yeah.
this show that
Yeah.
she's coming home. And man, that makes me so happy. And it's not just happy because me personally, she's a 630
Yeah.
native. She came from Naperville. I'm in the Oswego, Aurora area, so we got to claim our 630
So
representative.
you wait a minute. You're like right off of you over there off Cass Avenue?
No, I'm off of 34. I'm off of 34
Okay.
in Oswego, so we're not too
Okay.
far. We're not too far.
Right.
We played her school back in high school. We played them.
Right.
We played them. So, but she's still 630. I gotta represent the 630 out here. So
For sure.
so of course, aside from the fact that she's coming home for that perspective, it's the fact that the timing was so perfect because she played out her tenure.
Yep.
She did her time in LA. She's coming to a prime Chicago Sky squad that goes
Yeah.
to the playoffs, that's revamping themselves, and they have a very strong core. And on top of that, what she does for the community, what she does, what she means to Chicago, especially when it comes to women's basketball in Chicago,
Yeah.
like it's such a true multi-dimensional story that is really
You know what?
really going to impact Chicago.
I'll be interested in hearing and watching her press conference because and you guys can go watch this. Jay Hood and his Under the Hood podcast, he interviewed Candace a couple of months before the All-Star game when it was coming to here in Chicago. And they joked about how cold it would be. And one of the interesting things I'll never forget from that story was she talked about how happy she was with her career, her college choice, ending up with the Sparks, winning gold medals. But you could tell in her voice the importance that uh, Coach Bruno and the DePaul basketball camps meant to her in her development, and how close she ended up going to DePaul instead of choosing Tennessee and Pat Summit. And she definitely agreed, and I agree. just seeing how things played out, that, being under the legendary Pat Summit was probably the best decision for her. But you could tell she appreciated what Doug Bruno and those camps did for her. And for her to get that opportunity to kind of come full circle and to be able to be on a winning basketball team, not just coming home just to come home, but being in addition to a team that has young talent that's up and coming and can really contend for a WNBA championship, hopefully. That's what makes it even more sweeter. She gets the opportunity to come home and finally play in her hometown and play for her hometown team in front of her folks. Hopefully, we'll be able to get in there and get through this pandemic and everybody can come and watch the Chicago Sky, because I think it's going to be a fantastic product. And kudos to them for making it happen. Kudos to her. I think it's cool. I think now, being she doesn't have to be in LA. She's entrenched now in her career as a broadcaster, so she can pretty much live anywhere. She has to travel to get down to Turner Sports anyway, and with everything being via Zoom now, she can still do that. Be at home, be around her family. Her young daughter has been away from their family, so now her young daughter gets to come home and be around the rest of the family. So I think at this time it's like the perfect time, not only in her athletic career but in her personal life, to come home and possibly and do something that she longed to do, that she thought she missed when she chose Tennessee over DePaul.
Yeah, that's a really good, interesting point that you mentioned there. Shout out to Jonathan Hood, Jay Hood, doing big things over at ESPN as well, especially when now he's doing that co-host show with Dave Cap, man.
Yeah,
That's
funny show.
yeah, hilarious show, man.
Captain J Hood. Yep.
Yeah, they're doing their thing over there. And for you to bring out that interview, that really does shine light on how much home really is home. No matter where you go, no matter what you do with your career and things of that sort, it's nothing like home. And
No.
it's nothing like home. And for her to admit that and say, you know what, this kind of makes sense for me, especially right now at the perfect time to come home. That's a special thing. That's a special thing for the city, and for the WNBA as a whole. I
Yeah.
mean, that's what I think. That's one of the biggest things for the WNBA that could ever really happen is reboosting the Chicago Sky team with a superstar like Candace that's willing to come home and play for their hometown team. And we gotta at the same time acknowledge the work that James Wade has done. He's done an impeccable job to rebuild and
Absolutely.
revitalize that Chicago Sky franchise. And at the same time, give a shout out to WNBA and WNBA players as a whole. We should be supporting these leagues in general.
Absolutely.
It
Absolutely.
shouldn't just because an all-star or superstar comes to your town. No, these are WNBA players that are very talented. They're professionals. They have a living. They take care of themselves just like other athletes do. And it may not be at the scale as the male professional athletes of the NBA, but there's
Right.
still exciting basketball to watch, exciting talent to scout and see. And honestly, the games are fun. It's
Yeah.
actually a very fun family environment to be in. So we should be supporting the WNBA just like we support the NBA. And I think this will
And
help.
man, we have to not only what they do on the court and the product they give us, which is a great product, but look, what we were able to realize in the Senate runoffs, it all goes back to the WNBA bubble and
Exactly.
what the Atlanta Dream team was able, the statement they were able to make when their own owner, when they went ahead and protested against their ownership, and how that started the ball rolling. Of course, Stacey Abrams picked up the ball, and everybody else that was involved with that movement, not only in the presidential election, but the Senate elections and then the Senate runoffs. All of that started right there in the WNBA bubble, and it went from there. So, kudos to them for the stance that not only they take on the court with the product they give us, but the examples that they are for everybody, not just young ladies, but for everybody in this country off the court.
Most definitely, man. Most definitely. Before we get out of here, man, what you got coming up with your career and next steps that we should be paying attention to? Because you guys are really doing your thing. You, Brian, and the guys are really doing that thing that According to Sources podcast, man. It's a hell of a podcast. I've always enjoyed listening to it.
Thanks.
And
Thank you.
you guys are doing great things. So what's coming up next with your podcast and even what other endeavors that you got going on in your career that our followers really should be paying attention to?
Of course, man. You can go and you can follow A2S Network on YouTube. All of our content is there. You can follow us at A2S Pod 1 on Twitter and Instagram. We said we weren't going to do another podcast until the season got to 20 games in and we can really talk about what these teams truly are. And I'm glad we did wait because now the Harden trade is done and everything will start to materialize right before our eyes and crystallize. And now we can have real conversation. So we're gonna have our first podcast in a long time. Season. We're gonna give us kudos. We have a new segment that we're gonna debut, which is Big Mad with BC. If you follow Brian Crawford on Twitter, somebody is always big mad with BC. So somebody's always big mad with BC. Chris and I just sit back and laugh on a daily basis. So we're going to allow those people that have been big mad with him over the last couple of weeks to come on and debate the topics on our show head to head with BC, have some fun with that. And then we're definitely going to pay kudos to a guy who we recently interviewed at the NBA bubble when it was in I think at the Western Conference and Eastern Conference Finals, during the conference finals. Sekou Smith joined us from the bubble, and we just learned of his tragic passing on yesterday. He was a mentor to myself personally and a huge friend to Jared Payton when we used to do the Jared Payton show back at IMS, going all the way back to 2010. So, yeah, that hit me yesterday. Like the
Yeah,
people, they could tell you at work, I was kind of numb for about 2 hours. It just once it hit, I was no good to anybody. And we had a conversation over Christmas, and it's like the fact, this virus is real, bro. Like I don't want to stand here and sit on a pulpit, but I just hope people really can just kind of have love for mankind and human, your next door neighbor and anybody in your community, and just take care of one another. Wear your mask, wash your hands, stay clean, do anything you have to do, man, so we can combat this virus and get rid of it and go back to living the life that we're accustomed to living. We know it probably would never ever be the same, but hopefully we'll get back to some semblance of normalcy in the coming days. But yeah, that's pretty much it. And I just launched, or I'll be launching Mini Mics, minimics.com. It's a podcast network. Already have my two podcasts going, which is Mini Mics, the Call Third podcast. You can go to A2S Network. We already have interviews with oh my gosh, they're gonna kill me, man. uh, oh my god, we have interviews with the Chicago Sun Times and Chicago Tribune, Chicago Cubs and White Sox, Russ Dorsey and Lamont Pope. I don't know why I just drew a blank there, man. My guys are gonna kill me. Great interviews with Russ Dorsey and Lamont Pope, and I'm also launching something locally that people conversations, Mini Mike's conversations. We have conversations coming up with Andrea Horde, who won the 1996 NCAA slam dunk college slam dunk championship. Um, Played little league together, were rivals in high school on the court. He had a long professional career over in Europe playing basketball, and we'll talk about his infamous draft process where he was the leading scorer in his conference. He averaged like 28 points a game. Um, was killing Northeastern down in Northeastern, and had an invite to the Moody. That's when the camp was over at Moody Bible Institute. Had an invite, and the day he was going down there to go ahead and play in the games, they called him and said somebody else took your spot from a Power Five school. It's a great story, man. It's kind of tragic, but it's a real story. I mean, we're going to release that, and then I have another story conversation coming up with Simeon Rice, uh, childhood friend, grew up on the same block, used to kill him in the street when we played tag football. He had no rhythm, So I'll talk to him about that and dog him about that. Then all of a sudden, I don't know what happened when Frank Linty got him over at Mount Carmel. He turned into a beast. And then we ended up going to the University of Illinois together. We got some funny stories to share about our time down there. We'll talk about the SUV he got 2 months before the NFL draft and all the buzz around that and why he had to hide it after he bought it. It's like, man, it's just great conversation, man. Just conversation with people that I have a connection to and grew up with that went on to become people and professionals. And so I have some more in the music realm, comedy realm, B. Cole, guys like that. D. Ray, a guy that grew up around my neighborhood. So hopefully I can get him. Y'all pray for me. Y'all pray for me. Hopefully we can get him. But yeah, Many Mike's Conversations, man. I think that's the piece we're gonna get. And then Church Unplugged. I want to plug that for Mikal Harris. Uh, no, it's not churchy, but it's conversations surrounding church, social statuses, social things, politics, all of that. So that's going to be launching, and also the fam. The fam podcast is basically, if you watched Boomerang and the Black Industry and Marketing, that is like the NABJ for Black marketers.
Mm.
It's called FAM, FAAAM. As an organization for Black marketers, and just like NABJ is for Black journalists. So they have a podcast that's going to be on Mini Mike's podcast network as well. So, hey, anybody wants a podcast and you got something to say, you don't want your producer dancing, talking all up on your podcast, come to Mini Mike's.
Most definitely, man. Obviously, you got a lot going on, but we'll be definitely keep in touch and making sure that we check in on all the work you got going on. And yeah. I don't know if you mentioned it or whatever, but put out your personal Twitter handles and social media handles for people to really follow you and check you out.
Yeah, you can follow me, Shaun Davis, at SD2Mikes. That's on Instagram and Twitter. You can follow me on Facebook. If you still use Facebook, that's cool. Shaun Marcel Davis on Facebook. And yeah, that's pretty much it. Go follow A2S Network on YouTube. Subscribe to it today and check us out.
Most definitely, man. And everyone listening, you can follow me on social media on Instagram and Twitter at Josh M. Hicks Media. And follow We Are Regal Radio, War Media on all of our platforms. War on Anchor for all podcast platforms, YouTube, War Media, you name it, because we're doing some big things out here as well. And obviously, we don't have as many big time platforms and podcasts and stuff that y'all got rolling over here right now. But most definitely, it's always nice that when both families can link up. And
hey, man, look, everybody, you, Sid, Ken, everybody at Regal, man, my boy Kyle, Means, kudos. The work you do is superb. The content you guys roll out is superb. Keep doing your thing. Anything you guys need from the kid, anything you need from A2S, me, BC, C4, just let us know. We're always here for you guys, man. Same fight. We're in the same fight.
Most definitely, man. Thank you so much for coming on the In the Scope podcast. I really appreciate it. We got to keep in touch and link up soon. And maybe one of these days I can slide by on one of your many platforms and figure out.
Hey, man, you can jump in. All you have to do is just say something crazy to BC, and you'll be on the show media. Seriously, we look forward to having you real soon. Josh Hicks will be on A2S real soon. Keep your eyes and your ears open.
Most definitely, man. I'm looking forward to it. And of course, man, be safe in this pandemic. Obviously, keep in touch. And thank you, man, so much. I really appreciate it.
I appreciate you affording me this opportunity, young king.
Yes, sir, man. Stay easy.
You too.